Shamsul Alam Pantho. There are so many happenings around the globe, tensions, conflicts, tariffs, trade deals, BRICS, so many things. What are you going to pick for today's discussion in our show today?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan. It's been a rainy 2 days here. Thanks to Professor Benazir Ahmed for being here with us today, and a lovely afternoon to our viewers. Let me pick out the much distressing news worldwide. It would be regarding global climate change. We see a rise in the casualties in the Texas flooding incident. According to various media agencies, the death toll now stands at 108 people who have been claimed by the severe rainfall of 22 feet tall waves had crashed into multiple homes. And let me just give you a stark contrast. Yesterday and today, as you know, torrential rain has led to various flood developments in southern districts of Bangladesh as well, namely Feni, Khulna and Chittagong. Across from this, we see Emmanuel Macron of France begin his UK state visit, and of course calls in a first EU leader to visit UK ever since 2008, and he calls for the end and the war on Gaza and also on Ukraine.
The tariffs issue. Sir, you know, President Trump already approved new tariff letters to 12 countries set to raise duties by up to 70% starting August 1. Citing slow progress in trade talks, India already started negotiating, Vietnam started negotiating, and other countries also. I have one question, but you have to comply two parts. What is the position of Bangladesh? What is the fate of Bangladesh is going to be happen after 1st of August? Number one. Number two, in this war situation and conflicting world situation, imposing tariff is another threat. Some commentators said, what are you going to say?
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan, for your question. Of course, different parts of the question. I'll begin with what Donald Trump has done today is, of course, July 9th, and the 3-month pause would end today. However, 2 days ago, Donald Trump had signed executive orders pertaining to 12 countries, majorly in the Asia region and the South Asia region, and it was that they were to pay these such or receive such tariffs from August 1st. The media reported that more countries will be added on here before arrival at August 1st, but in terms of Bangladesh as well, we've seen it was initially at 37%, and according to yesterday's information, it was brought down 2% to 35%. Various figures in the current administration had concerned the media and the general public in Bangladesh, especially the RMG sector, that this figure may go down in further advanced talks with the US. Of course, both our counterparts in both nations are definitely talking about this issue as that date arrives. However, let me just point out what this tariff effect will have. America sees itself as a global leader. Of course, we cannot underscore that. However, it has a plan to create much more manufacturing jobs in the US, in a similar notion likewise in China. Of course, in China, the cheap labor was lucrative enough to bring such a environment in the Chinese manufacturing hubs. However, due to this tariff issue by Donald Trump, we will only see other nations trading in cotton, trading in raw materials just to avoid such a heavy tariff from the US. This may also bring a negative effect for the US in the coming months as well.
Government itself, DGs and the ministers or secretaries, they are themselves doing corruptions. I asked a question to Dr. Benazir, are they above the law? What is your opinion as a young generation leader and entrepreneur?
Well, of course, they're definitely not above the law, but since we're talking about the health initiatives of Bangladesh, when we look at any kind of physiological error in the body, when we look for better treatment, we often try to think of what is there readily available in Bangladesh. Well, there is not such. We often used to look at our neighboring countries, Thailand, we look at India for treatment, and specifically Singapore for treatment, given in this region. Now, Bangladesh does have talented nurses, technicians, doctors. However, the corruption in my matter would be there were certain instances where money would be the reason or the way in for someone to become a practitioner for human health or sciences. But apart from this, even during the coronavirus, much of the country was stuck at home, and they were not able to come out and do take on their regular activities. Of course, we don't look at the human health aspect. Even today, I mentioned the latest story from Feni that much of the residents are stranded there. Let me just tell you that much of the health concerns are actually very important. People won't be having access to fresh water. They'll be dehydrated given the current climate, and not just that, we will see that the casualties may rise without having avid food preparations as well. So it's not just that corruption in a certain part of Bangladesh's health infrastructure, it is when health infrastructure fails to provide during certain disasters and climate changes events as well.